absolutely trucked from behind. She's ready to do the hit. The whistles are being blown. She takes a...
All right, well, here it is. Backup quarterback. Chandler Harnish throws, and Pam Oliver, wham. Let me tell you, that ball had a tight spiral, and it had some hum baby on it. And, hey, Pam, toughest person in this stadium.
Thanks for you guys hitting me in the face with football.
Oh, yeah, we apologize on that.
This kid is physical. He's strong. I mean, arguably the top offensive lineman this morning in the one-on-ones. I mean, he's out there with a kid like Cameron Robinson. And
all of a sudden, there really have been questions about this defense, which is ranked 21st. Not having Benson is going to hurt. I had an interesting talk with offensive coordinator Tom. Did you guys see that football? I saw it. Anyway.
And I know we're moving fast, get physical out there on the field, and we come at full speed, and she's sitting down, taking pictures. I know that kind of hurt her, so I had to make sure she was all right.
What did you say?
No, I just rubbed her head, 'cause it looked like I hit her head. Yeah.
What up? It's clock management.
Yes. Welcome to my first time doing this. How's it going there, Magoo?
Pretty good, Duke. How are you?
Doing pretty well, other than my allergies kind of kicking my ass the last week or so. I'm doing pretty well, man.
Right on.
Yeah, nothing else really going on.
Well, apologies for the allergies, and I guess also apologies to all 2.4 weekly viewers that we get. The rest of our crew is on a bye week.
Yeah, they were so desperate that they scraped the bottom of the barrel and drug me into this.
Yeah. So,
which I appreciate. I got nothing else going on a Tuesday night at 9:00.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I was just thinking as I was waiting for Justin to start the show, I'm looking back over the scores from this last week, and I'm like, oh, I didn't watch any football.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of Red Zone on Sunday, but I have JV varsity against some garbage time. Better believe it. That's how we get up to the big leagues, man. That's how we prepare. I watched a lot of college football, but I did not watch really any NFL at all. I just see that the Patriots are still sucking major ass. The Falcons and the Redskins continue to not know what fucking team they are because they get their ass 1 week and then they're good. They're really fucking my pools up. That's what they're deciding to do, losing me money. But yeah, just spent most of my weekend watching college football, not watching NFL.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the case for me most weeks, more weeks than not. I mean, you live in Florida, I'm in Georgia. We're in college football country. Like, the NFL's nice, and it's something that, I do watch. And some weeks far more than others. Evidently, all I watched, I don't know why. I have no idea. I was glued to the Falcons and Redskins game because, well, obviously I'm a Falcons fan. And I just really wanted to see a bounce back game where we could look like we knew what the hell we're doing. And allegedly, a lot of people, and I think this is more on a fantasy side, were like, man, Desmond Ritter's really putting it together. I'm like, did you not see the 3 interceptions, 2 of which were just godly, horrible decisions that I don't know.
The only thing, I mean, I usually have Red Zone on when I'm watching the NFL because, ADHD, you can only figure out one thing at a time. I mean, yeah, Pitts is finally getting involved. London is finally getting involved. So, yeah, fantasy-wise, doing well because they're behind and he's slinging the ball all the time. But I kind of had some hope for Desmond Ridder a little bit if he could develop when he was coming out of Cincinnati. But as of now, I think the Falcons might want to do a little bit of tanking because they have some good young pieces. They just need someone to get them the rock, and there's a lot of really good quarterbacks coming out in this draft. And this might be the time for them to take a look at that. So maybe they want to tank a little bit. I know as a Falcons fan, you don't want to hear that, but I mean, Pitts, London, Bijan. I mean, what else do you really need? Those are some 3 fucking studs right there.
So I'll say this, and it's officially time to fess up. I think we're going into week 7, so it's at least I think we've seen enough of the NFL season to where you can start. There's a lot of games left. There's no doubt the season is still young, and a lot of things can happen. But you can now start to make assessments or adjust your preseason assessments based on what we've seen through the first 6 games. And preseason from, I think, May or June, I was pretty loud on the Falcons are winning the NFC South. That could still happen. I am no longer as confident in that assessment, and it's solely on Ritter's decision making. I haven't seen that shitty of decision making and still lead to winning a division. I'm now starting to adjust my preseason expectations for this team. And tanking is not outside of my vocabulary. I've been saying it for the better part of the last decade, ever since 28-3. So I'm fine with tanking. I just don't think the organization is ready to admit that there's a better option out there at QB. I think they might be married to the Ritter decision.
And see, because I'm kind of torn on the Arthur Smith. I think Arthur Smith has actually got the boys playing. I think he's actually a really good coach. He's got the weapons to have a good offense, even though he has that run first, like comes from that pound in the rock with Derrick Henry. But if you got Bijan and was it Atwater or whatever his name is?
Algier,
sorry, I don't know where I get that other name from. Algier, I mean, those are 2, that's a good 1-2 running back wise. You can have them both on the field at the same time. Bijan's basically a fucking wide receiver anyways. Yeah, they need someone to be able to get there. They need like a Drake May or someone like that to come in, or God forbid, go take a flyer on fucking Jefferson out of LSU.
Or Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, Jefferson. I'm thinking of wide receiver. Yeah, Jaden Daniels.
But speaking of Jefferson, there's also a backdoor possibility, but I think this is just as implausible as the Lamar to Atlanta or the Deshaun Watson to Atlanta a year before that, and that is
little cousin action.
Trade for Kirk Cousins, because now they lost their main weapon. They're struggling. Their record doesn't look great. Maybe they're the ones that should tank. Trade Kirk Cousins. The Falcons would never do that. Anybody that is even putting that out there as more than a joke scenario doesn't know the front office of the Falcons. When they make a decision, they will not budge from it, no matter how it does not produce on the field. It's that is one thing I can say for certain. And I don't even think we'll draft another quarterback unless we end the season winning only 2 of the remaining games. If that were the case, then yes. But I think we're stuck with the Ritter
experiment for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be the greatest gift to the New Orleans Saints that they could possibly ask for this year, because they look like shit too.
Yeah, and CD is definitely not happy about any of that. I mean, with the amount of talent that team has, they should not look as bad as they do.
Correct.
I mean, their defense is still pretty solid, but their offense is awful. And I don't know if I could put it all on Derek Carr, because it's been awful for several years lately. Like, the scheme is fucked under Dennis Allen or something. And once they came in and said, oh, this is basically John Gruden's system from the Raiders, I'm like, I knew it was going to be a little rough going into the year. But with Kamara just coming back, I mean, you've got Olave out there, wide receiver. Michael Thomas is still a good slot guy, basically a tight end or something, play that role. But yeah, there's no reason that they should be as bad as they are. But I mean, it's up for the Bucs too. I mean, the Bucs are another team that'll come out and they'll beat someone that you're not expecting them to beat, and then they'll take a shit like they did this past week.
Yeah. But they at least took a shit against a good team. I think the one thing that and on this show, we've been a pretty, pretty respectable of the Detroit Lions. Like, I think that they have. I think
top
they've
5 NFL team right now.
Yeah.
By
And going into the season, I think a lot of people, at least in this neck of the woods on this show, had them in that area. Like they were the favorites to win the NFC North. I love their coaching staff. I like their team
I
composition. I
love
wish
the
they
head
would.
coach.
Yeah.
I love Dan Campbell.
I don't know
Fucking
how
good.
anybody wouldn't. I mean, he's you can tell he's a player's coach. He's a man's man. He's a former player, so everything he says comes up. You listen whenever he says that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so,
Thank you,
yeah,
Justin.
we've been on that line, Nick, from the jump.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I heard something this past week that I wouldn't know it because I'm not a Lions fan, but there's only one 5-1 team in the NFL that's also beaten another 5-1 team, and that's the Detroit Lions. And I mean, they're legit. So to lose to them, and obviously this is a bit of coping on my behalf because the Falcons also lost to the Lions.
Yeah.
But Tampa Bay lost to a good team, and Tampa Bay has surprised. The difference is Tampa Bay has surprised people by playing as well as they have because their expectations could not have been any lower. They were right there with Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are the only one living up to their preseason expectation. Everybody else is kind of
yeah. No, there was no way that the Panthers were not going to live up to their expectation. They brought in Frank Wright, he had such a good team handed to him. He had such a good freaking team there in Indianapolis. They never could get the quarterback right, whatever that problem was, but everything else was there, and he shit the bed with that team. And now you come in with like one of the youngest teams, and it looks awful. I mean, I don't feel bad for Bryce Young because I can never feel bad for an Alabama quarterback. But
and that is the correct take. Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, he's just getting. Do you see him take some of those fucking hits this past weekend against the Dolphins? I thought Bradley Chubb was going to break him in fucking half. it was brutal. I mean, this guy's not going to survive his next couple years. If people thought that Tua was fragile, Bryce is smaller than Tua. But I will have to say I am very impressed with the Dolphins. I'm loving the way that they're playing. Their defense could be a little bit better, but that offense, no one's going to fucking touch that offense right now, it seems like, unless you're the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo.
But even at that, the Buffalo Bills have not looked great the last couple weeks. You know, inching by the New York Giants, the listless Daniel Jones-less New York Giants. Like, I don't know what the fuck that game was, but going back to the Dolphins, because I want to at least stay on a good team.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off with the Bucks either. It just got to there. But yeah.
It's totally fine. Totally fine. Fuck the Bucks. You know, I could the Dolphins are another team that even if you're not a fan of, you can easily find yourself rooting for because they're just so fucking fun to watch. Like their offense is out of this world. They remind me of kind of, well, like the Chiefs when the Chiefs had Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes was really establishing himself as the premier quarterback in the league. The fact that Tua figured out, however, not to turn his brain into mush. I hope that continues this year because that is the one offense that you can turn on at any time. Anytime that you have a chance to watch the Dolphins play, it's going to be entertaining. If you like scoring and big plays and holy shit moments, they are the antithesis of the Atlanta offense, and they're made for TV. And it's been a lot of fun watching them. And plus, it's been pretty fun having Tyreek Hill on a couple fantasy teams.
I can imagine.
It makes watching the Dolphins that much more entertaining.
I mean, I saw a stat yesterday all over Instagram, and it was saying that Tyreek Hill is on a 2,300 yard pace right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah,
insane. It's completely insane. Gotta love it. And I love the fact that everyone's like, how's he gonna do with Tua? How's he gonna do with Mahomes not throwing in the ball anymore? Tua can't get him that deep ball. How's he gonna? He put up more yards last year than he has in any other season, and he's gonna do it again this year.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna retire in 2 years and go do porn. It's like, no, it's been fun. And as a Dolphins fan for a very long time, I mean, I grew up a Dolphins fan. Then when the Rams moved to St. Louis, I became a Rams fan because that's where half my family's from. But then when they left, I'm like, all right, I'm back full on the Dolphins bandwagon. But I followed them my entire life, and they've always, ever since Dan Marino left, they're disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And now finally, it's like, oh my God. It's actually fun to watch the fucking Dolphins for once in my entire life. In my 35 years, it's fun to watch the goddamn Dolphins like it was when Dan Marino was fucking playing down there. And even his last few years weren't the best.
Yeah. And even if, watching a premier offense just wreck any defense isn't good enough for you, the post game, pre game, midweek, whatever press conferences that is it McDaniel or McDaniels?
McDaniel. It's McDaniel. Yeah, Mike McDaniel. He's the fucking man. I love him.
He's by far and away the best head coach press conference giver that's out there. He'll stop a press conference and be like, "Hey, I admire anybody that wears good, tennis shoes. You got some good shoes." And it's just like, what the fuck is that? Like,
he's got a charisma to him. He's got a way to banter with people, but he's also got that nerdy streak to him.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of, when he first got hired there, I'm like, well, he was coming from San Francisco, but I'm like, the way his offense is, the way his kind of demeanor is, his style is, he's Bill Walsh. He's this generation's Bill Walsh is who he is. He's innovating a new offense or a new style kind of offense or tweaking it or whatever. And he's just got that certain, I don't know, he's got that certain thing about him. That young freaking mad genius kind of thing, and I just hope it sticks. I hope it works out. I mean, stay there as long as fucking possible because he's entertaining and he's fun to fucking. Him putting stuff together is fun. He's vaping on the sideline. He knows what's up.
Yeah, they're just very easy to root for unless you happen to be a Bills, Jets, or Patriots fan. I think unless they are one of your division rivals, you kind of just have to enjoy the show that they're putting on down there.
Well,
and
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and again, once we get to week 6, it's time to start reassessing some of the preseason shit, at least that I've said. I'm willing to come on here and eat my humble pie. I'm pretty sure preseason I had something like the Eagles versus the Bengals as the Super Bowl, or the Niners versus the Eagles, or the Niners versus the Bengals, something to that degree. I know that I had Cincinnati in there, because I thought that this was going to be like their great redemption year. And right now, if I were to make a week 6 adjustment, I could easily see the Dolphins being the representative in the Super Bowl if all things carry on the way they have through the first 6 weeks.
Out of the AFC, absolutely, because they've got the Jets. They've already beat the Jets once, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I'm sure they'll beat them again. I mean, they played people tough, but you got the Jets, the Bills at home later in the year, and then you've got the Patriots again. Patriots are dog shit. I mean, I was reading stuff today saying that Bill Belichick might get fired by the end of the season. I'm like, I doubt that's going to happen, but I could see this being his last season possibly. This year or next year. So Dolphins ain't got much to go there. And then when you look at the rest of the AFC, I mean, other than the Chiefs, who else is there? Really?
Yeah.
That is a top caliber team. All the top caliber teams, like if you were to make a top 5, at 3 of the top 5 at least are NFC. Maybe you could say top 4. 4 of the top 5.
So real quick, the Dolphins have only played the Bills and the Patriots. They haven't
played the Jets yet. Okay.
No.
That's right. Okay, thank you for looking that up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so, but the Jets are always a tough one to play. But I know they played, Patriots in New England and Bills in Buffalo already? I know they played Bills in Buffalo and they lost that. So they get the Bills down to Miami at the end of the year. But the Bills and the guys playing only legit teams Dolphins have played. All right, there you go, Justin. There you go. Bringing that in. But, all right, but let's see, like I was saying, the AFC. Who are the legit teams in the AFC?
Chiefs.
Yeah. At least record-wise, you got Chiefs, maybe Dolphins, but eye test. Chargers? No. Raiders? Bills? Bills have struggled all year long. Chiefs have struggled all year long. Cleveland can't keep their quarterback on the field. They got Super Bowl caliber defense.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the Jets. Neither one of them have quarterbacks they can rely on. AFC South? Jags? No. I mean, Jags are probably the class of that division, but that division is not very good.
Yeah.
So who the fuck who are the AFC teams?
Unless the Jaguars can play the rest of their games in London, which they seem to do quite well there. But
Yeah, I know.
they've been a
I mean,
mystery.
they won this past week in Jacksonville, didn't they? Pretty sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
because
pretty
they didn't have a
sure.
bye week coming home.
Yeah, I mean they beat the
believe.
Colts 37-20 at home, but there's still a lot of question marks on their offense. Their offensive production is either ETN, well, it's ETN, and then a revolving door of receivers. It's been Christian Kirk a little more than not, but Calvin Ridley popped off early, but has been a ghost since then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the rest of their wide receivers you can't really count on. Trevor Lawrence has looked pedestrian and just bad at times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no, the Titans, they seem like a permanent 3/4 of the way through a rebuild. Like, they're not addressing much like the Falcons, they're not addressing the biggest issue in the room, and that is go find yourself an actual quarterback. The difference is that the Titans have tried by drafting Will Levis, and then the year before that, what is it, Davis
Malik
or Willis?
Willis.
Yeah, Malik Willis.
Yeah, the one that looked awful this past week when he had to go in when Tannehill got hurt.
Yeah, just running for his life. You know, the Broncos are just carrying on how they were last year. Just as far as like looking at the AFC, it's rough. The Texans are surprisingly better than expectations, much like
but you know when we say that they're a Super Bowl team, but they're a really good team. And actually, I'll give them this: Texans probably could possibly make the playoffs and win the South.
Yeah,
I mean, and I'll eat crow here. You had to eat crow a little bit earlier. I'll eat crow here. Like, I have a prejudice against Ohio State. I have a prejudice against the fact that everyone drafts Ohio State quarterbacks super high, and what have they always been? Busts.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them. Every single one. Don't give me no Justin Fields bullshit. Justin Fields is going to be a fucking bust too. But C.J. Stroud, he looks like he's going to be the fucking truth. He looks like he's actually going to be a solid NFL quarterback because he's just willing some of these fucking drives and some of these offensive possessions by the Texans. It's just him making plays. And that's nothing I've ever seen from an Ohio State quarterback before. So I got to give it up to him. And D'Amico Ryans looks like a hell of a fucking coach.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I was on the Lovie Smith love train, you know, a year ago. Like, dude, you got to keep that guy around. Like, but you can't argue with what's going on in Houston. I got to tip my cap to them. But yeah, in the AFC, just to finish that off, there's really just 2, maybe 3 teams: Bills, Chiefs, and Dolphins right now. And I'm not overly impressed with the Bills. I think their entire offense is only if Diggs and Allen can connect, because if they're off at all, they are rough.
No. I mean, Baltimore, but they can't keep anyone healthy, and Lamar can only do so much. You know? And I've always been surprised, like with the Bills, they can never find a running back to go behind Allen, so he doesn't have to kill himself. But yeah, sorry, I just got a little tangent on that when I was thinking about running backs with the Baltimore Ravens. But I mean, Lamar can only do so much. I mean, but you'd never say that they're a top 5 team in the NFL. They might be top 5 team in the AFC, but I mean, but then no. So it's Chargers looked awful last night against a team that I actually picked preseason to go to the Super Bowl, and that was the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they haven't overly impressed me much so far this year, but their defense has been pretty solid, and Dak is, I guess, finally starting to play like he usually plays. But I mean, it pains me to say anything good about the Cowboys, but I did pick them preseason to go in the NFC. But yeah, sorry. But I guess that's somewhere to move on because, yeah, the AFC is not. Baltimore has the same problem as Chicago. The best runner is their quarterback. Only the Ravens actually have a legit team, which is why Baltimore might actually have a chance to make some noise. But yeah, back to you with Cincinnati. I've never seen a team invest so much in an offensive line and have it look so awful. How many draft picks? How many free agents? Or I mean, after a couple years ago, when they realized, oh, we're going to get our generational quarterback murdered every single week, they've done nothing but put money into the offensive line, and their quarterback is still getting murdered on every single play. It's actually quite impressive.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where as the value of running backs continue to plummet, with rare exceptions such as like Jonathan Taylor and just like 3 or 4 running backs here and there, the value of the offensive line seem to be skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, and rightfully so. If you paid money, if the value of a player's contract was relative to their value to the team, offensive and defensive lines would be some of the highest paid players in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because you can't do shit without either one of them, and all of your star players are just going to get destroyed and get two-ed, if that can be
Throwing
a
up
term.
gang signs on the fucking ground.
Yeah, yeah, repping their set on the 50-yard line, looking up to the stars. But the Bengals have got to be probably the most disappointing team this year.
So far, yeah, they are.
Top 3 most disappointing teams, because I think by now you could have said the same for the Broncos a year ago, but since they had last year, you kind of saw this coming. The Bengals, though, I mean, the Bengals, I'm not the only one that had the Bengals kind of getting their double bounce on a trampoline up to the Super Bowl this year, just given how close they've been. And, it stands to reason that if you're sitting there knocking on the door for 2 to 3 years and you haven't really fully punched through, and I know they went to the Super Bowl, but I think winning it is punching all the way through.
Yeah.
That all it would take is like a Kelsey being old and starting to get injured year to keep the Chiefs out of it. Buffalo is really right there neck and neck, but the Bengals are younger, and I think they have more depth, or they have more star players. This should be the year. They've got to be the most disappointing team I can think of at this point.
No, I gotta agree with that. I mean, the amount of weapons that they have on that offense. I mean, Burrow throwing the rock. You still got Mixon. He's still a good dual running back. You got Jamar Chase. You got T. Higgins. I mean, it's like they should not be this bad. They should not look this. They should at very least be able to put up fucking points and just have to win shootouts with people. But no, they just look like a messy team. That's kind of like the best way I can describe it. Like I've seen play for them is they're just messy, look discombobulated. It's just like something about them is just off, And I don't know what it is. I know they've started off the last several years slow as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I saw that they've started off the season 0-3, like the last 2 years in a row or something like that, and they've had good runs in the second half. So maybe that's. I mean, it's kind of dangerous to be playing that game, but I mean, yeah, just something about him just doesn't. I mean, they keep saying it's because Burrow was hurt and didn't do anything in the preseason, but I mean, he's been in that system for a few years. A lot of these guys have been in the system for a few years. Chase has played with them since college. I mean, I don't buy that yet. They're got to be up there with being super disappointing.
Yeah, because at this level, once you're a professional and the majority of the team's roster has played in a Super Bowl and knows what it takes to grind it out for a long season and accomplish at a high level, there has to be, and this also goes back on to coaching, you have to know that the caliber of player never changes, but their capabilities week to week can, based on their health. This is when it's up to the coaches to show that they know how to adjust their play calling to put those, whatever level of talent or availability you have that week, in the best position possible. You're not to call a game the same way that you would if everybody was 100% healthy opening drive of week 1 at this point in the season, when you're clear, you got to change something, safety, more safer passes. Mixon is still good. I agree with you, but his production has been sketchy at best. And it's like, you have to, like, what are they working on in practice? Like, if I was a Bengals fan, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing, Monday through Sunday? Because there's not any adjustments that I'm seeing out of them. It's the same shit every week. And just some weeks they, like this past week, they get a lucky break and just edge out the freaking Seahawks. Yeah. Which 2 years ago they would have won by 3 scores.
Yeah. And see, that's another team that's been dicking with me a bit this year, has been the Seahawks. because they look like they're a pretty solid team, and then they do what they did this past week. They should have beaten them a whole lot. They should have beaten them either, like especially after that first drive. They crammed freaking Kenneth Walker down their throat. First drive made it look easy, and then after that, it was like, I guess we're done with that. So, but yeah, no, they've got to be up there with the disappointments this year. I can't say the Jets are disappointing because that was an act of God.
We're just all on a bad ayahuasca trip. That's all it is, man.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it seems like it. And then Homeboy says he's going to come back for the playoffs. I'm like, I mean, you got Zach Wilson, the MILF Slayer up there in New York. I don't know if he's actually going to make it through. See, on a side note, when that came out, right, with Zach Wilson.
Oh yeah, it was preseason of last year.
Yeah. How can you remember the top 2 teams in the league are also the top rushing teams? Yeah,
I agree with you. I'm talking about contractually.
Yeah, and also you can find the way that people are becoming like athletes are now, and you find running backs in the 3rd and 4th round that are fucking superstars.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to get them in the top of the draft. I mean, so that's why I don't pay them so much because they don't last so long. But I always felt that it was malpractice. It was business malpractice for the Jets not to have a Cougar section for Zach Wilson, because not only is he fucking his mom's friends, but he went to BYU. It writes its fucking self. Come on now, it's a license to print money, and they didn't even bother. I mean,
100%. Yeah. Well, that's where they need a Mike McDaniels type of coach to get in there, because Saleh is not gonna. He's not that dude. He's not that dude at all. No. But if you had a coach that was able to kind of lean into how to connect with the fan base, yeah. MetLife Stadium, they should totally, do their Jet Life Stadium like thing and just have a MILF section and call it business class or whatever you want to call it. If we ran the Jets organization and we were partnered up with like Barstool Sports, we could change that place around. But it's they play in the most boring, most expensive, boring stadium known to man, and that's kind of what you're getting.
There, but yeah, so.
That's kind of what the Jets fans are getting, is a very expensive, boring team, and because they moved all their chips into the Rodgers basket, and he couldn't carry it.
Nope. Unfortunately, I was just sitting here ready for it. But so we mentioned that Cincinnati is the number 1 disappointing team. So who would you think are the next 2 most disappointing teams? I mean, we're at week 7 now, right? And so it's And
on the AFC side, I would definitely say the Patriots.
Really, you're expecting a little bit better from them this year?
I wasn't expecting Belichick fire talk before we get to Halloween. Like, for them to be that bad. Yeah. For the Patriots to be as bad as they are, not only on offense, I think everybody saw that coming, but for a Bill Belichick team to look as shitty as they do on defense, which, your top draft pick and Christian Gonzalez got hurt, and that's a bummer. But there was always a little bit of wiggle room in the argument department on whether or not the Patriots' success was more attributable to Belichick or Brady. And I think after Brady went down to Tampa and won a Super Bowl year 1, that conversation got harder to have. And I think where we're at this point, it's almost like the door's closed on that argument. It was Brady.
I mean, it looks like that now, but I mean, you were there too. But like I said, I was a Rams fan when they were in St. Louis, and even was a Rams fan when Stan Kroenke was strangling that fucking team in its crib, trying to get them to LA, keeping them as shitty as possible for years. I saw this first Super Bowl, broke my heart, because not only did that Super Bowl fucking suck, but the NFL gave them with the tuck rule, but that's a whole other story.
Mm-hmm.
Those first 3 Super Bowls, yeah, Brady had his moments, but I think that was Belichick all the way. Those first 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
After that, after they gave Tom Brady the keys, and after 2007, after that fucking crazy year, that was 2007, right? With Randy Moss and Julian Edelman when they
they
lost
went
to the
perfect.
Giants.
Yeah, 16-0 to go lose to wild card Eli Manning led Giants.
Yeah, and then they did it again. But after that, I would have to say it's all Brady.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have the good coach, but yeah, Brady was the one that carried them through those other Super Bowls, and he proved it by going to Tampa and taking that team there.
Yeah,
It wasn't even a good team. They were 9-7. They had to win like their last several games to get into the fucking playoffs. But they got hot at the right time, and Brady's Brady. But it's one of those things where the band is never as good on the single act as they are together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of how it is with Bill. Mac Jones is not, though I thought Mac Jones would be better, but Bama quarterbacks are very often like Ohio State quarterbacks.
Agreed.
And they're looking off on. I thought they would be a little bit better with Bill O'Brien coming back in there.
I did too, because that connection of their time in Alabama together, I thought there would be some chemistry, some common, understanding of I know what you can already do well, and I know how you like to call a game.
Mm-hmm.
We can skip the introductory part here. We can just get this thing going. Bill can be more focused on the defense. Bada boom. They would at least be 500 at this point with a shot in hell at a wild card spot.
Yeah, and Bill O'Brien has been a decent offensive coordinator in the league, and he had decent offenses down there in Houston. I mean, he had Deshaun Watson going off, but still, he had good offenses down there. He just was a shit GM and head coach. You would think that would have been a whole lot better, but no, they just ain't got the people, And I mean, I guess you could say it's a disappointment because of our previous expectations of how we think a Bill Belichick team is supposed to be, or like what we're used to seeing. But I mean, I wasn't really expecting them. I was expecting them to finish last in the East by far.
Sure, I think, and I think where they're going to end up isn't going to be a surprise. I think it's just there is a difference between only winning one game and being in last place, or finishing the season 7-9 and being in last place. I don't even think they get to 7-9. I think that they, I think the expectation always was like, all right, we're still a few years away, and we got to have some good wins to be able to still give the fan base hope of potentially building on something there. But right now, I don't know how they handle the Belichick exit if this level of play is to continue. It's obviously going to be the, hey, Bill, I think we need to do the right thing and allow you to leave with your head up and, call, you have to go resign now. But I'm glad fuck that organization forever. They got more Super Bowl trophies to hide behind when they're doing poorly that I'll never have. So I don't feel any sympathy, pity, or any of that shit on them. But I'm glad I'm not Bill Kraft that has to start to contemplate how we handle Bill's exit.
And that's the thing right there. How's Robert Kraft gonna respond to this? Is he going to get to the point where he's like, sorry, Bill, like we had a great run, but just like I had to move on from Brady, we're gonna have to move on from you. Or you told me we had to move on Brady, I got to move on from you now.
Mm-hmm.
Or is the fact that he moved on from Brady someone who he like publicly kind of like considered a son of his, like kind of have that kind of affection towards him, and stuck with Bill and watch Brady go down and win a fucking Super Bowl? Is like is he gonna be able to fire Bill, or is he gonna just give Bill all the leash until Bill is the one that decides he's gonna retire? Will Kraft be able to pull that trigger? Because he's gonna have to like save face. He's like, no, Bill could do it. Bill could do it. Give him a couple more years. Bill could do it. Are we gonna keep hearing that, or is he gonna actually do what's best for the organization in the long run? And it's like if we're gonna be shitty, we might as well be shitty with our new coach and GM that we're, hoping to build around.
Yeah. But just looking at at the AFC as far as like another couple disappointing teams, I don't think that there's a lot of happy Patriots fans at the moment. But looking around, I don't know what the expectations of the Colts were going into this year. I think knowing that you're drafting a potential generational quarterback that gets injured, you're kind of just happy to be anywhere. I think maybe the Ravens, because the Ravens, it's like they have the talent. We already discussed it, but they just can't. They just can't put it together. I know they have a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken, and it's clear he's a better college coordinator than a pro coordinator. But it's like, I don't know, man. If you're the Ravens, you're like, our defenses are going to be good every year. We got Lamar fucking Jackson. We got one of the best tight ends in the game, and they have enough wide receivers to go out and score points for you.
Yeah,
I think that they are underwhelming. I don't know. The Broncos, and you got to throw the Broncos in there just because it's like, holy shit, how could you be this bad for this long with that, with that payroll,
Well, and here's the thing with the Broncos. I'll give them this credit. They're hitting the reset button early.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we just gave up all this shit for Peyton. And he's clearly where they're going to put their money in and put their chips behind. Frickin', I think Russ is gone after next year. He'll have to stay at least one more year, but I think he's gone after next year. But they're blowing it up now. They're already traded up. Who they trade? They traded a defensive player.
Randy Gregory, I think, or something like that.
Gregory. Sorry, I keep coughing. I had bronchitis last week, and my allergies are killing me. So it's been a rough 2 weeks.
No worries.
They traded him up, and they're already apparently taking calls on everyone. Basically, he's like, "Do you want him? What's your best offer?" And that's probably smart.
Yeah,
especially giving up all that stuff, and they're not going to have a first-round draft pick this year or next year, right?
Correct. Because they sold the farm for
for the two guys. Yeah.
So
it's like, might as well tank it as good as you can these next 2 years and try to get the best freaking picks that you can, and then be focused on that year where you have a first-round pick again, because you'll be bringing in younger guys. You'll be able to sign different people. Try to rebuild it that way. Maybe Russ will be gone. You could draft one of these quarterbacks high up that's coming out. Arch Manning, maybe. I don't know if he'll be coming out that year, but you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. Or maybe Shedeur Sanders, or keep him in the state of Colorado.
Oh my God! Are we going to get a chance to talk about college football at all? Because we're going to need to move on to the NFC here in a few minutes. But yeah, really, it's like you think about it, and it's like the Bills and the Bengals are really the two most disappointing teams in the AFC, I think, because everyone else in the AFC you really didn't have much expectation from, and the ones that you did have an expectation from are doing well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the Bills are sloppy, and I mean they're actually, the Bills and the Bengals are playing very similar to each other right now.
I agree.
The Bills just happen to have won a little bit more than the Bengals, but they seem to have the same kind of problem going for them.
No doubt. We can switch over to the NFC now. I will leave this. I think Jerry Jeudy is the next Bronco to be traded up out of there. I don't see. I don't see Jeudy being a Bronco for much longer. I think he's playing if he's going to play on Thanksgiving, because I don't know their schedule. It's not in front of me. It's not going to be in Denver.
No, I don't think so either.
On to the NFC as far as the most disappointing teams. Oh boy, where to start? Because I'm trying to weigh it with expectation versus where they're at now, but also at the same time, just how bad have they been and for how long?
Yeah,
and I think the Cardinals. I think if you're a Cardinals fan, it's not that there were high expectations coming into this year, but I know some Cardinals fans, and they are probably one of the more miserable fan bases out there right now that are loving what they're seeing now on the field, where they're showing some fight They're staying in games they have no business being in, and they're still losing, which is exactly where you want to be to have hope for the future.
Yep.
But when you're in that state of mind, that's a disappointed fan base. That's not anything that you ever want to. You never hope for those years where you're looking at like, we need to lose a lot of games, but I hope we look good doing it. Come on next year before this year even starts. Like, that's just never a good spot to be in.
No, it's especially in the NFL. And it's just the curse of having the worst ownership in the NFL. I mean, it's a toss-up between them and the Bengals, really.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, probably those two are the two worst. Seahawks have been pulling it together last year. They look like they've taken a step back in a lot of ways. Yeah, I'd say the Seahawks are a little bit of a disappointment. I would have thought that they would have, run away with. They would be running away with that division. Like they would. I would thought that the Seahawks would be the class of the division by far, because I think the Rams are. They clearly sold everything for that one Super Bowl, and they're going to have a long road to hoe over the next several seasons. I think. We knew where the Cardinals were going to be. Playing for Caleb Williams. But then again, the best team by far, I think, even though they struggled and they can't stay healthy, is the 49ers. I think the 49ers are by far the best team in the NFL right now. I mean, just the way they look overall. I mean, now that McCaffrey's hurt, Debo's hurt, we'll see. But through the first 6 weeks, I thought they were the best team by far until they, half their team got hurt on Sunday. But again, Seahawks are extremely disappointing. Giants are a major disappointment. But then again, I have my uncle and my brother-in-law are huge Giants fans. To just to throw the dad pun in there, but
I like it.
But yeah, they've been miserable, and I was like, how could a team that was looking decent and looking on the up last year, how they could look so fucking bad this year? I mean, I get it, Daniel Jones is your quarterback, but Saquon Barkley hasn't been, reliable for 4 years now. I mean, he had a good year last year, but 3 out of the last 4 years, he hasn't done jack shit for you. So I don't know why they brought him back on 1 year. I would have let him walk. And I'm not a GM, but there's no way I would have given Daniel Jones any of that money.
No.
I mean, no.
He's had one good year since he's been in the league, and that was last year. And even at that, I think everybody was collectively going, "Holy shit, is that Daniel Jones?" Like, out there on the perimeter running and picking up first downs. Like, this isn't his skill set, yet he's doing it. So I think the Giants exceeded expectations so much last year that they are coming back down, and water finds its own level, and you're seeing what the team actually is.
Yeah.
And that's you have that rebound shock of oh shit, we are terrible.
That's the way my brother-in-law put it. He's like, I knew this was going to happen, but he's a New Yorker, he's from Queens, so it's like he's got that permanent negative attitude about his sports teams.
Yeah.
But he's like, there's no way that you're going to win so many close games 1 year and not lose those close games the next year if you're playing that close to people. And I'm like, all right, that makes a lot of sense, especially with the team that you have. And I think what they did is they saw Daniel Jones that first playoff game, and he actually slanged the rock, threw for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns or something like that. They looked good doing it. They're like, oh yeah, we got our quarterback. Dayball has done it. The meatball has done it. No, it's still the same fucking Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully they worked it in that contract that they can get rid of him after this year. But
and for me, I agree with your assessments on which teams are upsetting, but I just think the NFC has more upsetting teams than the AFC. And my final two are both the Vikings and the Bears. I think the Vikings, for the reason similar to the Giants that we just mentioned, that they set the bar so high last year with winning 14 games, which I think 10 of those were one score or less that they didn't quote unquote deserve to win. But if
you had comeback wins by Kirk Cousins and everything like that,
biggest comeback of all time, which against the Colts last year, which for some reason has already been forgotten, and we still think 28-3 is something that still needs to be talked about. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
but it's because that was in the Super Bowl, my friend.
Yeah, well, potato, tomato, or something, dude. I don't know. But
Yeah,
the Vikings now kind of doing what the Giants are doing and establishing themselves that, no, we are that bad. We were surprisingly good last year, and we aren't what our record says. We are this team.
we're a 500 team at best.
And I think that for the Vikings fans that came in thinking, holy shit, the NFC North is wide open because Aaron Rodgers is gone. The Lions are the Lions. This is ours for the taking. I think that they are probably pretty disappointed. And I'm also gauging this based on what I think the fan base is thinking. And then the Bears, unquestionably, to me, undoubtedly, coming into the season, having Justin Fields as the preeminent, far and away preseason favorite for NFL or NFC MVP.
Really?
I think it's NFL. Yeah.
Were
Vegas
people really
odds.
that high on him?
Vegas odds had him higher than like the next 2 to 3 candidates combined, as far as how much money was going towards a single player for MVP going into the year.
I'm really glad I did not see this before, because I am genuinely shocked that people felt this way.
Yeah.
It's like, did you watch him last year? It's like, yeah, he put up like 1,300 yards rushing. He's a fucking quarterback, though. He can't throw the ball.
No,
He, like,
he's a
cannot-
one.
he can-
He's a first read, one read only, and then run quarterback, which are my absolute. I detest those.
Mhm.
They will.
They work in college. They don't work in the fucking pros.
Correct. But I think it was the DJ Moore coming to Chicago, and it was like all that Fields was ever missing was a downfield threat, and now they got it.
That's all he can hit. But if it's not there, he can't hit it.
Correct. I mean, Cole Kmet is a good tight end, only because the tight end field is so bad in the NFL that a guy like Cole Kmet could be a top 5 tight end option.
Mhm.
And then, they do get some running backs. They get Dante Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. Chuba is still with the Panthers. Either way,
yeah.
they get a few running backs in there to help lighten the load off of Justin needing to run, even though if you're Justin Fields and the ball's in your hand and it's a pass play, that's still a running play.
Mhm.
And
they get hurt.
Yeah. But they're playing so poorly that I got to imagine that has to be one of the more disappointing teams, only because of the hype coming into the season, which I thought was fool's gold and you probably shouldn't buy into it. But I mean, I was talking to a Bears fan leading into the season who has kind of been on a 7-year sabbatical from the NFL. And he's like, is it safe to start watching again? I'm like, I think so, dude. Like all this preseason hype has you guys fucking doing some shit this year. I hope you didn't take my advice, but I think that's just,
and he's hating you for it.
Actually, I haven't heard from that guy in a few months. I need to check in, but I think it's just versus the hype, which was not warranted, versus reality that I think should have always been taken into account. That's another big disappointment, and I think that's just a manufactured disappointment.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, I saw some comment earlier in the year. It's like the Bears are worse than the Cardinals, and the Cardinals are actually trying to be terrible. And it's like, I kind of feel for the people up there in Chicago, but not really. I've never really been a fan of the Bears. I would have to say, if you're putting all that hype on Justin Fields and him playing the way he is, then there's got to be a whole lot of disappointment with that. I mean, can we really say Green Bay is a disappointment? Or can we just say it's about what we expect, the growing pains?
I think they're right where the NFL world and Green Bay fan base thought that they would be.
Mm-hmm.
Win some games that looked, were surprising. Like their comeback win against the Saints, I think really boosted the Packers' overall feeling on what their team is capable of.
Mm-hmm.
While at the same time, the way that Green Bay played against Atlanta, where if Aaron Rodgers is still on that team, they win that game easy. They drive down the field, they get that last minute game-winning field goal, and they walk out of there with a dub. I think there's been a perfect balance of growing pains with the new quarterback coming in, a rotation of trying to find his receiver. 1 week it's Dobbs, another week, Christian Watson comes in and he starts to get a little bit of use. The running backs can't stay healthy. they have the right mixture of injury challenges, growing pains with a at times high ceiling quarterback who some weeks plays below that. That you're kind of like, okay, well, all things considered, we're about right where we thought we'd be at this point. Any Packers fan that's legitimately disappointed in their team's outcome of what the team has done to this point, I think just is probably too close of or too big of a fan to have realistic expectations. I think they're right. They've hit the
About where
mark.
they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Thinking who else in the NFC would I say is a big disappointment?
I mean, you could consider the
Yeah.
Saints. Everybody had them running away with the NFC South, and they're
True.
sitting right there, not knowing their identity.
Yeah. They don't know what they want to do. They don't know if they want to be slinging the rock or they want to be running it. Yeah, I would have to say I'll put the Saints up there and be disappointed because everyone thought they were the class by far and away in the South there. I mean, in the East, I would say the Redskins, Eagles, and Cowboys are all exactly who we thought.
There's
picking game.
There's the obligatory. We've been talking about football too long now. Start talking about football, but only this week football.
Okay. Well, if that's what we got to do, let's start getting there. You want to pull up those? Because let's see what time is it. All right. Yeah, I got maybe a half hour left of me if we want to go that long.
All right. Yeah. This week kicks off with Thursday night game Jaguars at Saints. New Orleans is favored by a point at home, which means Jaguars by 2. If you follow those kind of things. And 4-2 Jags at 3-3 Saints. New Orleans is a tough place to play, especially at night. But with all the shit I talked about the Jaguars, they are a more put together team. Give me the Jags. I don't know what the score differential is going to be. That could be a 17-13 kind of game. But I like the Jags in that one.
All right, so we got Saints are favored by a point. So it's a pick'em game essentially. I would go with the Jags in that one. The Jags are a more complete team. Their defense at least gets after the quarterback. I don't think they'll be able to protect Derek Carr very much. And like you said, it's going to be probably a low-scoring, ugly game. Jaguars and the Saints so far this year tend to have that 17-16, 13-10 type of game. But I could definitely see the Jaguars taking that one. That's who I would go with.
Yeah. And then next up, we're staying in the NFC South. We got Falcons at Tampa Bay. 3-3 Falcons going to the 3-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a surprising 3-2. Tampa Bay is favored by 2.5 points. So similar to the New Orleans game, it's going to really just be who has the ball last kind of a situation is what they're thinking. Obviously, I'm a Falcons fan, but I'm not delusional. I will openly admit when I am being delusional, but I don't know what to make of either of these teams at the moment. The Buccaneers are surprisingly better than I thought they would be, and the Falcons are about one game worse than I thought they should have been by now. If the Falcons can go down there and win this game, then I have very good feelings. I'm right back. If the Saints and Buccaneers lose next week and the Falcons win, I'm going to be right back in the seat saying the road is paved for us to win this division, and it all starts with the win in Tampa Bay. So, give me a Falcons win.
See, this is one of those games that I hate to pick because, like you said, I don't know who either of these fucking teams are right now. Because I can easily see the Falcons going into Tampa and winning that game ugly. Because this is the type of game that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will lose. And after this past week, I like the Falcons' defense. They got some studs, and they got just enough playmakers, and they got that Zip as their kicker. So, and he's good. And you get him inside 50 yards, and he ain't missing. So, I think, and you said it was Tampa by 2?
2.5.
2.5. Tampa 2.5. I'll take plus 2.5 on that all day. Yeah. I'll take Falcons with the spread for sure.
All right. Browns at the Colts. The Super Bowl caliber defense with a who the fuck is our quarterback offense is going indoors to go beat up on we had a quarterback once too. Now we just are stuck with Gardner Minshew. That wasn't meant to rhyme. Cleveland.
Good job, though.
Cleveland is favored by 2 points. I like Cleveland. I like their defense. I like their offensive weapons. It sucks balls that Chubb is out for the year. That hurts me in so many different ways because he's such a fun. I don't think anybody roots against Chubb. He's just a fun. He's one of those guys I think everybody respects and likes watching.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm not a believer in the Colts. I like Gardner Minshew, but I don't know what the hell to make of that team outside of. Give me the Browns just because this game makes me feel icky. And
once again, another year, another season where the Colts are having quarterback problems. When they have a team, they have a fucking team. They got weapons, especially with Taylor coming back now. Once he gets in the groove, they have a couple decent wide receivers. Pittman's taking that next step. Moss, they have potential two-headed monster down there at running back. And then, I'm slightly biased. I'm a Gator, but this is what Anthony Richardson played scared for last year with the Gators, was to be in the NFL and play tough, and he played tough, and he hurt himself. So, twice. So, can't say I didn't see this coming, but, disappointed because I want to see the kid. He's a good kid. I want to see him do well, but, give me the Browns all day in that game. And I think Watson will play this week. Eventually.
Justin says in the chat, Browns might be for real if they can figure out what the fuck they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. Totally agree. I think they got kicked in the nuts when Chubb went down because I thought that their offense ran through him. And you lose him, and now it's Jerome Ford, and it's like, well, Jerome's not bad, but he's no Nick Chubb. And it's always going to take at least the best thing for the Browns is that it happened so early in the season where they can find their feet. They can get their feet under them. All right, next game, Bills at Patriots. 4-2 Bills going to the 1-5 Patriots. You just heard our breakdown of what we think about the Patriots. Buffalo favored by 8.5 on the road, and in the NFL, it might as well be 28 points. Give me the Bills all day long. I don't think that this is going to be a secret gotcha game.
8.5 is a lot. 8.5 is a lot. These are the typical games where I would go with the underdog. The Patriots are just too awful. I'll go with the Bills as well.
All right. And then we got the Redskins going up to New York. The 3-3 Redskins facing the 1-5 Giants. Washington favored by 2 on the road. I just, after just recently watching them play in Atlanta, they did nothing that made me scared of them or respect them. No. But then they had to fuck it up and let me watch the Giants even after that. And I don't trust they're like the Giants, even less than the Redskins. Give me the Redskins. They find a way to get it done on the road, and the Giants start to go into full panic mode.
Yeah, Redskins. Yeah. I doubt Daniel Jones is going to be back. Barkley's probably not going to be back. Even if he is, how good is he going to be? And the Redskins are just one of those teams where they look like ass one week and then they beat someone that you don't think they're going to beat the next. And this is probably a game they're going to lose, but I'm going to go with them.
For the Giants' only win to be that nail biter comeback win in the desert against the Cardinals,
their biggest comeback win in franchise history.
Yeah. Just that alone, I'm going to be picking against the Giants in pretty much every game they have this year. There's a little spoiler alert for the rest of the year. And then next game, we got the 5-1 Lions going to Baltimore to face the 4-2 Ravens. Baltimore favored by 3 at home. all of the things that I've already said my pick is the Lions. I think they just have it together. They have chemistry that the Ravens don't have. This isn't about what position group is better than the other. Right now, I would take Laporta over Mark Andrews just based off production, not off talent. I would also take Goff over Lamar Jackson, again, not based on talent, but just based on production that's been proven to me. So Lions, give me them.
See, I'm very much on the Lions bandwagon too, but he says 3 in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Baltimore here.
Nice.
I just think that Baltimore's a hard place to win. Baltimore is always a team that can win ugly. They've always been that. All the way back to as long as I can, the fucking Trent Dilfer days. They're a team that can win ugly, and I think this will be an ugly game for the Lions. It's not going to go the way they want it because, I mean, I don't want to put too much stock on indoor versus outdoor team, but it's just something about playing in Baltimore. Offense doesn't quite go the way that you always want it to. So I'm going to go with Baltimore there.
I think a big key in this game, which I would totally see the Ravens winning this, is that the Lions are quasi-decimated at running back.
Mm-hmm.
Jahmyr Gibbs still doesn't look like he's going to be going this coming week. There's a chance he could, but they haven't come out and said anything. David Montgomery is out for at least 2 weeks. I think they have a bye in 3, so he could be out for almost a month.
Yeah.
So if that happens, that opens the door for the Ravens to do something. Next game, the 3-3 Raiders, that could be a surprising team, is going to Chicago to play the listless 1-5 Bears. Vegas favored by 3 on the road. And not a lot of deep, insightful discussions here. Jimmy G had to go to the hospital to get his back looked at. But I think even a Jimmy G-less Raiders still beats the Bears on the road.
Yeah, I go with the Raiders there. It's funny to realize, like, when they throw certain stats up on these, like, primetime shows, and it's like, Jimmy G is one of the highest winning percentage quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. I'm like, really? You fucking kidding me? It's like, well, yeah, because he's either hurt or he's winning. So it's like,
yeah.
So yeah, what's the spread again?
3. The Raiders are getting 3 on the road.
3 on the road in Chicago. It all depends on if Jimmy G's playing. Who's their backup?
Hoyer.
Oof.
Yeah.
I would say fuck it. I'm gonna go with the Bears. I'm gonna say this is gonna be one where the Bears surprise us. I mean, if Jimmy G's not in there, I'll go with the Bears. If Jimmy G's playing, it's a Raiders thing, but I'm assuming he's not playing if his back is jacked up.
Yeah. Earmuffs, Buck, if you're out there watching. Next game
I like the Raiders. I've always liked the Raiders too, but it's just sorry.
No, you're good. Next up, we got the 3-2 Steelers coming off a bye, going out to LA where there is no fan base to play the 3-3 LA Rams. The Rams are getting 3 points at home, which surprises me because the Steelers offense has been god awful. And the Rams have been surprisingly good. The Rams could have, they're a 500 team, but to me, I'm surprised by their offensive output. They got Cooper Kupp back. He's going to be in week 3 of now playing, I believe. And he looks to be as legit as he ever has been. So give me the Rams. I think they win huge because the Steelers are incapable of moving the ball and scoring points.
Yeah. I don't know why Matt Canada still has a job. But yeah, the Rams should win this game. They're a team that should be way better than they are. Stafford's still decent quarterback. He might not be Super Bowl winning Matt Stafford, but he's still, above average NFL quarterback. They have decent running backs. They have now with cutback, they have like 2 or 3 good receivers. Even though he just wants to run the ball, and they got playmakers still in that defense, so they should be much better than they are. Steelers, that's another one. We talk about your Ritter situation, Pickett. But he's been making a whole lot more strides, I think, than Ritter has in the last few weeks, looking better at least. But just something about him just doesn't seem to click. Yeah, give me the Rams there.
Right on. And then we get what I thought was the worst team a couple weeks ago, but they've been surprising me with how good they can lose games. The 1-5 Cardinals going up to Seattle to face the 3-2 Seahawks. Damn, Seahawks getting 8 points.
No.
Seattle -8 at home. That I didn't expect to see that because that's a divisional game. I don't give a shit what your record is. That's not gonna.
And how close Cardinals play every single team.
Yeah, that's surprising. That line that scares me. I would almost stay away from that one, unless because they must know something I don't know. But
yeah, I'm going Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just picking just straight up win or win or loss. I think the Seahawks win that game, but I wouldn't.
Spread, if it's spread, I'm going with the Cardinals there. We're
Yeah.
going with the points. If it's just straight up, I think Seahawks do pull off, but I see that as like a 4-point game, not a 4 3-point game, not an 8-point game.
Yeah, it's just shocking to see any divisional game get more than 3.5 points. I mean, even even the best team in the NFL playing the worst team in the NFL, if they're in divisions, you almost put a cap on it where it's like we don't go over 4. But that's just my retardation. Next up, you got the 2-3 Green Bay Packers going out to Denver to play the 1-5 Broncos. I'm going with the Packers to win the game only because the Broncos. There's another guy on YouTube that I watch that I've watched for years, and that's Brandon Perna with That's Good Sports is the name of his YouTube channel, and he's a Broncos fan, and he's been doing a series for now ever since Russell Wilson's gotten there, where it's the new worst game ever. But now he's up to like 17 news, like new worst game of all time, because the Broncos have found inspiring ways to lose, different ways almost every week. That if they were an 18-wheeler, they would have already lost 20 wheels by now. Like with how many wheels have come off their fucking their wagon. I think the Broncos might be the most underwhelming team in NFL history for multiple years. Packers aren't that great, but they're good enough to go beat whatever the fuck the Broncos are. So give me the Pack.
Yeah, give me the Packers as well. They're coming off of a bye week. LaFleur's going to have them ready to play. Broncos, they're just because and it's funny because a couple years ago they had a really fucking good defense, like top of the league defense, and then they brought in whatchamacallit last year as their head coach, Hackett, and he hacked it up, and no, it's like it's cursed or something. It's
it's that damn airport. It's that damn airport out there.
Yeah, but no, Green Bay all day.
And this also fulfills Justin's prophecy that he says in the chat, and the Packers beat enough bad teams to end up picking mid-teens and take a middle linebacker, and then I hang myself. That seems exactly what the Packers would do to their fan base, is fuck around and be a 500 team.
Justin, if they had a top 5 pick, top 10 pick, they're just going to trade out of it and draft a defensive lineman. It's just what they're going to do.
It's just different.
Or a quarterback.
Yeah. It's just a different quality rope that he'll be using. That's all. He's literally splitting hairs. Next up, we get the 2-3, which might be an underwhelming Chargers going to Kansas City to play the 5-1 Chiefs. They're saying Chiefs favored by 5.5 at home. The Chargers record, I think you can chalk up 2 of those losses directly to poor coaching. I think that they are a very, very talented team that will always underperform as long as they have the coaching staff they have. I don't want to pick the Chiefs. I would love. Actually, fuck it. I'm going with what I want rather than what I think. I'm going with the Chargers. Upset road win in Kansas City.
I don't say they're going to win. I say they will cover that spread. Herbert's better than he's been. I mean, he's had a decent year so far, but I think he's a top 5 quarterback. They have Eckler back after another week. I mean, he's finally getting back in the groove. They should be much better than they are, and I just think, the Chiefs are 5-1. But just something about them. they're not as dominant as they were last year. I mean, they're still winning. Winning is all that's. Yeah, they'll lose in retarded fashion, but I think they'll still cover the spread, Justin.
Yeah.
Because it's 5.5. I think they
Yeah.
can get. I think they can get that to be in a one possession game. Yeah. So
I
I'll go
totally
with the
agree, and I
spread.
think that's likely what will happen. But something in me, I got to pick at least one upset, and that's going to be my
Yeah.
upset of the week. Because next, I don't think there's an upset possible in this game because I don't know who we're going to pick. We got the Dolphins, 5-1 Dolphins, going to the 5-1 Philadelphia Eagles. That is the primetime game on Sunday night. Philly favored by 2 at home. I'll make this real easy. The Dolphins, I got the Dolphins winning the game. And mostly that's because the Eagles have so many injuries that they're stacking up on the secondary that is going to just allow the strength of the Dolphins to fully flex their muscle on the now immediate weakness of what was otherwise a very good Eagles defense. And it's going to be close, but I think if it comes down to a shootout, Dolphins take that one.
If it comes down to a shootout, I agree with you. I'll go with the Dolphins. But as someone who's followed the Dolphins for his entire life, this is the type of game that the fucking Dolphins choke mad dick on. So my heart wants to go with the Dolphins, but my gut, and my trauma tells me to go with the Eagles in this game because just something about it makes me think that Dolphins are going to shit the bed. I mean, so I think I'm going Eagles. I'm going to pick against the Dolphins, and I'm going to say that they win, and I think they win by at least a touchdown.
Here's something a little abstract that I'm going to throw out there. I don't have the other schedule in front of me, but this might play into how this game works out because it's notorious to be a road team going into Philly, especially for a night game. That's nowhere you want to be. It's nowhere you want to be at all. Those people are maniacs. They're assholes. They're animals. They all deserve what's coming to them.
I see where you're going here, but yeah, go ahead.
And maybe, just maybe, the Eagles fans are too drunk on that Philly juice that maybe they're not going to be fully focused and fully amped up. They might get caught off guard with this game. It's hard to imagine because when you got the Dolphins coming into town, can the Eagles fans that are a notorious fucking waste of space, can they redirect their energy away from Citizens Bank Park over to the link to show up? I think if they show up, it's going to make it very for guys like Tua to communicate with the offense. That could be a deciding factor in this game. But if the Phillies are doing what the Phillies have been doing, and that is crushing the hopes and dreams of the visiting baseball team fans, maybe they're too distracted. Maybe they're already rioting downtown because the Phillies are going to their next World Series to go get smashed in. Who knows? Something to look out for as you're watching this game.
And I know we probably don't have time to get into that, but we don't need to talk about that series.
No. All right. In the last game of the week, Monday night, we got the 5-1 49ers going up against the 2-4 Vikings in Minnesota. San Francisco favored by 7. I think if this game, you can tell this is one of those games they scheduled based on how last year went, and that would have been a fantastic game. But without Justin Jefferson, with all the talk that probably isn't going to happen, but with all the talk out there, potential Cousins trade, it looks like the Vikings fans are already giving up on their team very early this year. Congratulations, Minnesota. 49ers surprisingly lost on the road to the Browns. That was uncharacteristic of the 49ers. McCaffrey, it just comes out, is trying to and saying that he will play next week. The oblique injury is not apparently a serious one. If McCaffrey's even on the field, give me the 49ers by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I got to go with the 49ers one way or the other. I mean, Justin Jefferson is that offense in Minnesota. And, they say, they lost to Cleveland in Cleveland. That's a tough place to play. They have a really good fucking defense. And like you said, their top 3 offensive players, because Trent Williams went out, Deebo Samuel went out, and Christian McCaffrey went out. That's why they lost that game.
Yeah.
Their defense is too good. Shanahan will have that offense working one way or the other. They're inside. Give me San Francisco. Yeah. in that game for sure.
But to close out Sunday and to finish off the week on Monday, those are two games I'll definitely be watching and should
Those
enjoy.
two primetime games, definitely going to get in on that.
Yeah. All right. So those are the NFL picks, discussions, schedule, all that stuff. And whatever time you got remaining, Duke, if there is any time remaining, the floor is yours to discuss anything college football related that you want.
Oh, so many things to talk about this college football. It's been a wonderful and stressful college football season so far this year. As a Gator fan, highs and lows and chewy, creamy middles. That South Carolina game was a roller coaster. I'm glad to see like Graham Mertz actually taking fucking shots down the field. They're young. I'm not looking forward to Jacksonville with that game coming up because I think it's going to be very much like the Kentucky game. But then again, your boy is hurt. So I think we'll talk about that game a lot more next week.
Yep. Yeah, because we're both on bye this coming week, so we have some time.
Yeah, time to think about that a little bit more. That Oregon game, that Oregon-Washington game was fucking great.
Yeah. Damn near instant classic, if I do say so myself.
Mm-hmm. I think Oregon, Utah, I think is the class of the Pac-12. What is going to be the last year of the Pac-12? And I know I didn't say this anywhere other than group chats, but I predicted this past year that it would be the death of Pac-12 because of USC and UCLA leaving, and then everyone else. You're going to have there's going to be 4 power conferences. It's going to be the Big 12, the SEC, the Big 10, and the ACC. That's all we're going to have. We're not going to have the Big 5 anymore. It's going to be 4, and they're going to turn all those into non-divisions, and it's just going to be the Power 4, and those are, and even in them they're going to start moving around. But for the Pac-12's last year in existence, which I'm not shedding any tears because fuck the Pac-12. I think they're having their best year and probably since USC lost to Texas.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah.
To have that number of teams that are doing as well as they are.
Yeah.
Even back then, I don't know if the Pac-12 was doing that because that USC was running through the conference back then.
Yeah.
You would have a spike year with Oregon. Washington would go to a Fiesta Bowl and, represent the Pac-12 another year.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Utah would do a couple things here and there.
Yeah.
But Utah was in the Mountain West back then.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this might be their best year top to bottom.
And it's their last
20 years and it's their last year. And it's kind of funny. I do think it's kind of funny. Colorado is who Colorado is. There are a lot of media hype with Deion, and I think it's showing more and more that Deion just cares about getting his boy publicity and making sure he's out there to throw the ball. But get no mistake, he's going to find himself in a couple years at a fucking top school because no one's going to be able to resist it. I'm saying he's going to be in Miami in 2 years because the way things are going with.
Yeah, with Cristobal and the way that he handed one to Georgia Tech, that is a fireable offense. I know there's a lot of people saying it's not. Fuck that. That just shows me a total lack of being in the game. I said on this show a couple weeks ago that, I think Deion ends up in Florida, whether it's Florida State, which Florida State's doing too good to go hire a guy like Deion right now.
Yeah.
I personally thought it might be the Gators.
Really?
Because I don't have the long-term faith in Billy Napier. He hasn't shown that to me yet.
Mm-hmm.
And
sorry, I just hit the desk. Yeah.
And the only game that he's won since he's been there that I believe that was surprising, holy shit, you shouldn't have won that game, was the opening game last year against Utah in the Swamp.
Yeah.
Ever since then, he has not won a game that I felt like he should not have won. He's lost games that I felt that the Gators should have won.
Yeah.
But he hasn't. It's kind of like the boom bust thing in fantasy. I think he's busted more than he's boomed. And so I could see Florida growing less and less enchanted with him. Not this year, but maybe after next year, if next year is no different than the last year and a half. And I could see them wanting to go out and make the splash of a guy like Dion.
See, I
Where
have thought that myself. But yeah, go ahead. Where they bringing all that attention in. Yeah. That thought had crossed my mind as well. I think as long as Billy brings in an actual offensive coordinator next year and play caller and kind of like relinquishes that a little bit, which I think he's kind of getting a little bit more counseling from one of their assistants.
yeah, maybe we should, Justin.
I mean, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Certain mornings I'll be able to do that, certain Saturday mornings. But I think I think he gives up play calling next year and actually hires an actual offensive coordinator, not just have two offensive line coaches and have an awful offensive line. I think he'll be able to save his job because what Billy's job is and what it always should have been is to change the culture and recruit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing both of those things. And it seems to be when he strays from those two things is where he has his problems. I'm not going to deny that he's stepped into a big pile of shit that Dan Mullen left him. He had half his team, actually 2/3 of the team that he took over was gone by the beginning of this year from transfers to graduations. They've played 11 true freshmen in every single game so far this year. So they're starting from scratch. They're doing what Mike Norvell did in Florida State. And year 3 was the year that when Mike Norvell and his team broke out. Now, Mike Norvell is a hell of a much better play caller and offensive mind than Billy Napier is. But I think if Billy actually can let go of the reins on that a little bit and actually bring in an actual person who could be a coordinator and game planner and play caller, I think he's safe there. Because they're going to pull in a top 5 recruiting class this year. They're probably going to pull in a top 5 recruiting class just about every single year that he's there. And, I mean, what else do you really need, in college football? I mean, you need a few more things, but bringing in those top 5 classes means more than a lot because in college football, you can just out-talent so many people.
Yep.
And, but yes, if Billy does not take a step back that way and make some changes going into next year and actually show massive improvement next year, even if Lagway doesn't play, if they insist on Mertz, finishing out his career, he showed me enough this year that they have enough talent around there that they should be much better even with Graham Mertz next year, even though they're probably going to have the toughest schedule in the SEC. But yes, back on the Dion. Sorry, I can get rolling on the game.
Totally fine.
I know you understand, but yeah, I see him in Miami in 2 years because he'll wait for his son to graduate from Colorado, and then he's going to take that next big job, and Miami's going to be like, we need to bring the swag back. We need to bring, the U back. And they're going to back the fucking Brinks truck up to fucking Dion. And it'll be probably a glorious disaster.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe not because he'll be able to get all the fucking talent to want to come to South Beach and play for him.
He definitely
wise and recruiting.
He definitely could do that. If he's in Florida at any school, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
He will own this state. And it would be very interesting to watch Miami go into Tallahassee and see how that reaction goes. Yeah. I think that he will definitely be like, now this is personal. It will be this is personal hype train for a month leading up to that game if he ends up being the Miami coach. Yeah. It will be a disaster for all actual football fans and a blissful 4-week-long edging session for the casuals. They will eat it up and that would be a train wreck in all the best ways if he goes down to Miami. But I could easily see that. Here's one thing about Dion that I don't know if this made it outside of my NFL or college football or football algorithm world, but because I follow the Falcons and Dion was a Falcon, all the Falcons social medias and local Georgia sports social medias were sharing this video where a Falcons scout was at Colorado practice recently, sometime within the last 10 days, and Dion goes up to him and daps him up like he's still playing for the Falcons. And he's like, Atlanta's my city. What's up? And he's pitching both of his sons. And he says, Atlanta, you got to take both of my sons. and he's actively telling you why he's at Colorado. Is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
This is a sales pitch on the biggest stage that would take me this early in my coaching career, just so I can get my two sons to the NFL. And he's sitting there saying, hey, Atlanta, look at what I did for y'all. Now it's time for you to do something for me. Take my two boys. And they put it out on social media like, hey, look at this. Reuniting with the Falcons as Sanders. And I'm just like,
yeah, and he do podcasts and shit with his kids too?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, no. That's why he's at Colorado. He's like, all right. And all right, we can get into this, but him coming out that first game and talking about fucking, oh, this is what HBCU kids can do and this and that and the other thing. Said, motherfucker, you just left an HBCU team to go and play in a higher division or coach in a higher division.
Mm-hmm.
If you truly believe them, you would have fucking stayed right there. But no. But it's just another part of the whole, it's all part of the sales pitch. It's all about Prime being Prime. But yeah. The only reason he's in Colorado is because they would take his kids. Mm-hmm. He could prove himself in Colorado, make them not ass like they were last year and be half-ass. Get his kids into the league, and then move on to the premier place. That's why he didn't go to Auburn, because Auburn probably would have taken his, at least the defensive back, probably would have taken Shenault, because they don't know what the fuck they're doing down there in Auburn and quarterback. I mean, yeah, Ashford can't throw, but at least he can run the fucking offense. Thorne can't even run the goddamn offense. I don't know what Freeze is doing, but Auburn is a team that should be way better than they actually fucking are, especially since they have a really good defense. I think they have at least a pretty decent defense. They just can't fucking score the goddamn ball.
One thing that I've said before, probably multiple times, and I will stick with it. I will stay on it. Like I said, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Auburn to me is the hardest job in college football.
Yeah.
Because not that you don't have opportunity, but you're sharing that opportunity. And I'm talking just from a recruiting perspective, a regional recruiting base. You're sharing that with Alabama, Georgia, Florida State when they're good, and right now they're good, Florida and LSU.
Yeah.
And more years than not, all of those are 80% of those teams are crushing it, or expected to crush it. And you got to compete with that, which is why the Auburn coaching history has been as bonkers as it has been, because the people who run the Auburn athletic department is very similar to like the Packers ownership. It's run by the fans. It's not, they pick and choose who's going to be in there. Yeah. They have a lot more say at that school, for the better or for the worse.
Yeah.
And if things aren't exactly where they want them to, or where they think they should be, they will blow that thing up in a heartbeat. And I think that is a very reckless way to handle that position. I think the only people that don't understand that Auburn is the hardest coaching job in America are Auburn fans. They seem to think that they are national championship worthy every year. Yeah. And it's like, no, dude, you're lucky to get the couple that you got.
Yeah. It's funny you say, because like one of my best friends is an Auburn fan, and the guy I was with in the Army, and he is like the most negative person I've ever heard in my entire life, especially talking about Auburn football. Yeah. But you're right, but they usually seem to recruit and have really good teams.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I get wanting to get rid of Gus. Gus needs to fucking go. There's no reason for him to be there. And then I don't know. Freeze. I think they give Freeze his 3 years. He doesn't have to put money in McDonald's bags anymore. He doesn't have to get prostitutes for his
burner phones and
yeah. I need to get off here 30 minutes. Seriously. Yeah, no. It's how it goes, Justin.
That's a compliment, by the way. That's a copywritten Justin compliment.
I appreciate that, Justin. But yeah, no. I think if Hugh Freeze gets his 3 years, Auburn's going to be very happy, because I think Hugh Freeze is a pretty good coach, and he was at a similar job in Ole Miss, and he recruited the fuck out of Ole Miss. Who can fucking recruit at Ole Miss? Lane can't even really recruit at Ole Miss.
No, and he's nothing but
good. No, and Hugh Freeze can. Hugh Freeze brought in the number 1 recruiting class in the country at fucking Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I think he can do pretty well at Auburn given the opportunity. But yeah, Auburn's a tough place. I mean, at least they have the Atlanta Metro to pull from, and there's a lot of fucking talent there.
Southwest Georgia, Columbus, LaGrange.
Yeah.
There's a lot of down there, and oh my God, why am I spacing? Anyway, high school football from Valdosta, Georgia, all the way over to the Florida-Georgia corridor is some of the best in the country. If you can nail it at Auburn, you're going to win championships, and you will have statues built. But if you're competing with a good Florida State, Georgia, where we're currently at, and Alabama, where they've been, I'm not saying you can't do it, but I'm saying you got a hill to climb every year.
The thing that's going to be a beautiful disaster, and I'm going to say it quietly because someone's downstairs, Kelly and LSU in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna end bad, and she called it. I'll give the wifey all the credit. She said, "Fuck Brian Kelly when he came in. Why are you giving this Yankee all this money to come down here and try to coach up these Southern boys?" And yeah, it's gonna end badly because look how bad their fucking defense is. Have you ever seen an LSU defense this fucking awful?
No,
like, it's not something you're used to. It's like it's gonna end very poorly in Death Valley for Brian Kelly here in a couple of years, and it's gonna be a beautiful disaster. And I can't stand LSU. It's gonna be great, but I have to be diplomatic about it now.
You got to be crying on the outside and laughing on the inside. I get it. That's a challenge, but yeah, I will personally also enjoy when Kelly has to pack up his family and move them right the fuck back up north. Because why LSU ever hired him is beyond me. But I guess they're acting a little like Auburn, knee-jerking, getting coaches in there that have no business being in that building, and they'll learn. They'll find out one way or another. But I think that's probably about good for this week. Yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Or whatever people are supposed to say at the end. I'm not good at ending these things. I'm just going to talk until Justin hits that stop broadcast